Why does the magic in some stories feel like a breathtaking wonder, while in others it feels like a cheap way for the hero to cheat? Whether you're interested in writing gritty epic fantasy or whimsical fairy tale fantasy, the way you structure your magic or don't can determine the stakes of the entire world. This video, I want to break down for you my three types of magic systems: hard, medium, and soft. By the end of the video, hopefully, you'll be able to figure out exactly which kind fits your stories. And more importantly, how to use them without messing up your story itself, your plot, everything. But now I want you to ask yourself a question. If your protagonist is backed into a corner, should the reader already know how they're going to escape, how they're going to win? Or should they be surprised? We'll answer that later. Keep it in your head. So just a little bit about myself. I've been interested in the theories behind storytelling for a long time. I started telling myself stories when I was very young. I've always had an overactive mind. It was a way to help me fall asleep, to kind of wear myself out. I just come up with characters and worlds and stories and, just wear my mind out. As I got older, I got into reading other kinds of, or different kinds of fiction. When I was a teenager, I started getting into collecting RPG books. I actually grabbed this to show you my very first RPG book, Werewolf the Apocalypse, 2nd edition, from White Wolf Gaming. It's the first one I ever bought. I also, the first card game, CCRG, collectible card game, CCG, I ever bought was Rage, the accompanying one. So I've been interested in all this stuff for quite a long time. And, yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So, hard magic systems are magic systems with rules. You can kind of compare them to RPG magic systems, except that the rules of magic systems in RPGs are there more for game balance than they are as a storytelling aspect. So it is not a perfect example. It's not the greatest place to draw inspiration from, but you can. Dungeons and Dragons, for example, you have to have spell slots that are expended in order to cast spells. And all spells, at least I think all of them, have some kind of component that they have to use, the caster has to use in order to make it work. This can be gestures, it can be spoken, or a lot of times it's physical components. Sometimes it's things that are used to focus the energy of the spell and you can keep it. But in the case of especially higher level magic, it consumes the item and they can get very expensive, like tens of thousands of gold expensive. So you can draw some inspiration from the systems used in RPGs, just have to be a little careful about that. Looking to just kind of pure fiction, we can look at things like Full Metal Alchemist and Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. There are clear rules. Often, again, kind of like the magic system of Dungeons and Dragons, there are things that must be given up for the magic to work. With a Full Metal Alchemist, it's kind of the law of conservation. To gain something of equal value must be lost. Okay? And the benefit, what makes hard magic systems really good and appealing to a lot of readers, is kind of that the rules themselves are appealing to many people. They like to know how things work, but it also allows for kind of aha moments where the protagonist will use the magic in clever ways in order to solve problems. I kind of liken it to mystery novels. Hard magic systems are a bit like the clues that you see throughout a mystery novel before the ending reveal. The rules are kind of like the clues. Medium magic, this is my kind of personal category, is something I thought of because especially for Harry Potter, but some others, and that it's a middle ground. There are some rules that are established. Harry Potter, there's wands, incantations, gestures that needed to be used. The potion making is kind of like a form of chemistry and magic, alchemy, in the way it's often used in fantasy. So there are rules, but they are quite often bent or ignored. In the later novels, you have the wizards that can just cast spells without needing to say them. But that's introduced kind of as a level of mastery. Once you've mastered a spell, truly mastered it, you can use it without the incantation. So it gets a little loosey-goosey with the rules, but there are some rules. And then it also kind of allows for there to be some rules, but then you can introduce things like ancient magic that breaks them, or the power of love, or a pure heart. However you feel about that sort of thing, I include it in this kind of middle ground area rather than being true soft magic systems because there are some rules. Again, it's a bit of a middle ground, so it's medium. As you might have guessed, if you're not already aware, soft magic generally has no rules. It can and very much should have limitations. Again, you could kind of think of this as like the spell slots of Dungeons and Dragons. If you take away all the other components, it becomes a much more soft magic system, but you still have to use up a spell slot in order to cast the spell. There's some limitation involved. Without the limitations, you run into problems. But some examples, kind of Lord of the Rings would be an example because while it is clear that there are limitations to Gandalf's power and the power of the wizards in general, you don't actually know exactly what they can or can't do. There's no clear definition for what their powers are, what they're capable of. It's just that you don't see Gandalf solving problems with his magic, so it establishes that there's limitations to it, but we don't really know what he can do. And the same applies to a lot of fantasy. A lot of anime-based fantasy, Studio Ghibli, and I think it's Ghibli or Ghibli, I can never remember. But soft fantasy systems are, by and large, the majority. But you have to have limitations. If you don't, you run into the problem that magic just becomes a deus ex machina. It solves the problems without anything being at stake, and it kind of kills the conflict tension for the story. If you don't know what deus ex machina means, it comes from Greek plays when playwrights, ancient Greece, I'm talking about here, when the playwrights would write themselves into a corner, they don't know how the hero's going to escape, so they literally would lower an actor or actor, usually actors, I don't know if they had actresses back then, probably not, but they would lower somebody down on like a winch or a pulley or something, dressed as a god, and literally the god would save the day. So it's a win from nowhere, basically. The day is saved from nowhere. The opposite of that, or the inverse, is Diabolus ex machina, where the villain just wins from nowhere. And you have to have limitations because otherwise, as I said, the soft magic system, you just end up using magic as the excuse for every win, and there's no stakes anymore. It kind of is used better. It either needs to have solid limitations, strict limitations, even if it's not explained or given rules, or it is used by villains to create obstacles. It is used to create atmosphere. Side characters can use it, but not the protagonists, usually. So that's kind of soft magic. Now, before we continue, I want to ask you a question. What is your favorite type of magic system? Do you like the rules of hard magic? Do you like something in the middle, like medium? Or do you prefer kind of the loosey-goosiness of a soft magic system? Let me know. So, how do you use them in your stories? And I think the best way to look at it is, how do you want to resolve conflicts? If you want to use a hard magic system, your goal is, again, look to mysteries as an example. The detective in a mystery has the clues, and the reader also is able to find those clues through the story writing and follow them, and then at the end solve it. You want to give your reader kind of that ooh moment when they see the path to how the hero, the protagonist, is going to solve the problem using the magic that you have established rules for. With soft magic, it's usually the story is about the experience or mystery or other things than the magic. The magic is there to add flavor, to add conflict in the form of power that the protagonist does not have or has more difficulty in dealing with, but it isn't the focus. So, to return to the question I asked at the beginning, should the reader know how the hero is going to escape? Well, the answer is it depends on the magic system. If you want the reader to know, then you use a hard magic system. You let the reader see the potential paths to victory because you have given them the rules of the magic, and you let them see how the hero could possibly use the rules of the magic in order to win. Just like a mystery, you don't want to introduce clues at the last moment that solve the case. You don't want to introduce new rules at the end that allows the hero to win suddenly. That makes the reader feel cheated, so you have to be careful about that. Now, in a soft magic system, the hero is not going to use magic to win, not in and of itself. It may be involved, but it is not the core crux of what allows victory to occur. They win through their character, their courage, sacrifices. The magic might be part of the picture, but it is more of a background element. Again, to use Harry Potter as an example, the kids are always outmatched. Even the adults that are the good guy adults often are outmatched or outnumbered. Or even if they are getting the better of the Death Eaters, we see them die. The magic is part of the story, but it is not the driving force of the story. It is not how the conflicts really are solved. The conflicts are solved through other means, with magic just kind of being there as an element for things to happen, in addition to the other things that happen to make the problems go away. Trying to organize how I wanted to say that, sorry. So to kind of finish things up, say that, world building is a balancing act. And I have found that once you nail down your magic system and really decide how you want to use it, it makes things start to feel more cohesive. It makes some of your plot elements and the storytelling elements become easier in fantasy. Now, if you're looking for more tools and resources, I have some in my description of the video that you might find useful, so check that out. And of course, all the good YouTube stuff, share, subscribe, like, answer the question I asked about what kind of magic system you prefer to use or what you enjoy the most, and answer in the comments. And yeah, that wraps it up. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Later.